She's normal, Jack breathed, looking at Janet. Or as normal as she ever gets. But the levity didn't last. A massive bruise, a goose egg, was already rising on her forehead. Janet, usually the pillar of strength, looked like she was about to cry. The night took a turn for the surreal. Amidst the smell of burning silk, Janet's forgotten laundry in the oven, the tension in the apartment reached a breaking point. Later that evening, when Jack found Chrissy wandering the balcony, dazed and confused, the comedy died completely. "Jack, will you put me down?" she complained, as he swept her up to carry her back to bed. "No way," Jack said, his voice thick with a sudden, protective ferocity. "I'm taking you to bed, whether you like it or not." Fate, however, had a cruel sense of timing. Mr. Furley, returning for the third time to remember a forgotten message, witnessed the scene. To him, it was the evidence he had been looking for. "I caught you red-handed," he yelled. "Mr. Furley, it's not what it looks like," Jack screamed back, but the landlord was already spiraling. "No Roman orgies here or else," Furley warned, his voice cracking. But then, Chrissy swayed. The world tilted. "Whoa, whoa, Jack." Everything just got sort of blurry. The humor vanished. The room went cold. Jack looked at Janet, and for the first time in their years together, they didn't need words. "Let's get her to a hospital," Jack said, his voice hard as flint. "Right now." Chapter 4. Seaport Hospital. The fluorescent lights of Seaport Hospital were unforgiving. The air smelled of antiseptic and old coffee. Jack paced the waiting room, his hands shoved deep into his pockets, while Janet sat huddled in a plastic chair, staring at the floor. Why did he have to take so much blood? Chrissy had asked earlier, her voice small and frightened. Jack had no answers. He only had the memory of the doctor's grim expression. "Doctor," Todd had spoken of inner ear disturbances, which sounded manageable, but then he had whispered the words that haunted Jack's mind. "It's late, Janet," Jack said softly, stopping his pacing. "Why don't you try to get some sleep?" "How could I sleep?" Janet snapped, then her face crumbled. "Chrissy's in there." We don't know. We don't know anything." "I'll make some nice warm milk," Jack offered, his own heart breaking. "No, Jack. Nothing's going to make me shut my eyes tonight." "How about some nice Scotch tape over your eyelids?" Janet looked up, a tear tracking through her makeup. "Oh, Jack, I know you're just trying to lighten the mood, but it won't work. I'm scared." "Janet, remember, the doctor said it's just a possibility. That's all." "Gosh," Janet whispered. "Chrissy isn't just my roommate. She's my kid's sister. She's my biggest aggravation. And she's the sweetest. The best friend I ever had." Jack sat beside her, letting her lean against his shoulder. "She's going to be fine. She better be, or I'm going to break her neck." They sat in the silence of the hospital, two souls bound by the love they shared for the girl behind the swinging doors. They reminisced about her dumb stories, the time she thought a telephone extension was a financial plan, the time she wanted a 2-foot cord because it only had to reach her ear. "She is going to be okay, isn't she?" Janet asked, looking at Jack with desperate hope. "Somebody always watches out for kids like Chrissy," Jack promised. But inside, he was praying harder than he ever had in his life. Chapter 5. The Midnight Misunderstanding. The morning sun brought no relief, only a tired, grey light. The doctor finally emerged, his face weary. "How's Chrissy?" Janet jumped up. "Oh," the doctor sighed, thinking of the whirlwind of nonsense Chrissy had put him through regarding her father, Reverend Christmas Snow. "She can go at any time." The words hit Jack like a physical blow. She can go at any time. In the language of hospitals, he heard only the finality of death. He didn't hear the subtext of a discharge paper. He didn't hear the relief in the doctor's voice. "She can go? At any time?" Janet's voice was a ghost. "Yes, I'm sorry," the doctor said, distracted by his charts. "I just told her." Jack felt the world collapse. He walked into Chrissy's room, his legs feeling like lead. She was sitting up, looking remarkably bright. But to Jack's grief-stricken eyes, it was the rally before the end. Hi, Chrissy, he whispered, his heart shattering. Oh, hi. I'm so happy to see you both. She beamed at them. Did you talk to the doctor? Yes, Janet sobbed. And we know. How do you feel? Jack asked, taking her hand. It felt warm. Too warm? Oh, fine. The not knowing was the worst part of it. Chrissy, I'm sorry, Janet cried, burying her face in the bed sheets. Hey, how are you guys? Chrissy asked, her brow furrowing. You've been so terrific through all of this. As long as I live, I'll never forget how super you both were. As long as I live. To Jack, it sounded like a farewell. Is there anything you want? Jack asked, his voice cracking. Anything. You name it. Well, before I go, I would like to go around and say goodbye to all the nurses. They made it lots easier. Jack turned away, tears finally stinging his eyes. Even at the end, she was thinking of others. When? Jack managed to ask. Did the doctor say when? He said around noon. So fast, Janet wailed. So fast. Even Mr. Furley arrived, subdued and carrying a bouquet of flowers that looked like they had been stolen from a cemetery. Make sure these go with her, Furley whispered to Jack. There's no sense in leaving them behind. And if you wrap things up by 12, you won't have to pay for another day. Jack turned on him, his eyes burning. In a minute, I'm gonna choke you. I'm gonna put his hands around your neck. What's the matter with you guys? Chrissy asked, stepping out of the bed, fully dressed and radiating health. The doctor walked in, laughing. Jack froze. Janet stopped sobbing. They looked at the doctor, then at Chrissy, then back at the doctor. You mean, she's all right? Janet gasped. All right? If all my patients were like her, I'd be out of business. Have a nice trip home, Chrissy. The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of 1,000 unspent tears. Then, the realization hit. The going was a discharge. The noon was a checkout time. You're well? Jack shouted, a laugh bubbling up from his chest, hysterical and wild. Chrissy, you're well? Of course I'm well. What are you so excited about? Janet, overwhelmed by the emotional whiplash, simply closed her eyes and tilted sideways, passing out directly onto the hospital bed. Chapter 6. The Aftermath of the Storm. They returned to the apartment as the sun set once more. The drama was over, the medical bills were pending, and the rent was still 10 days overdue. Mr. Furley stopped by, his landlord hat back on, but his heart softened by the scare. The rent, you can just forget about it. Until tomorrow. As the door closed, Jack looked at his two friends. The company of three was still intact. The laughter returned, the familiar bickering resumed, and the golden light of Santa Monica filled the room. Jack walked to the kitchen, the scent of the ocean air calming his nerves. He looked at Janet and Chrissy, the two women who made his life a beautiful, chaotic masterpiece. He leaned against the counter, the same way he had only 24 hours ago. Hi, honeys, he whispered, mostly to himself. I'm home. But that night, the sleep that Jack had craved didn't come easily. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Chrissy slumped against the tub. He saw the cold, clinical hallways of the hospital. The realization of how easily their unconventional family could be shattered was a weight on his chest. He threw off his covers and wandered into the kitchen to pour a glass of water. The apartment was silent, save for the hum of the refrigerator. Then, a shadow moved. Jack? It was Janet. She was wrapped in her robe, her eyes still a bit puffy from the day's ordeals. She didn't say anything. She just walked over and leaned her forehead against his chest. Jack wrapped his arms around her, feeling her tremble. I really thought she was gone, Jack, Janet whispered into his shirt. I really thought we were saying goodbye. I know, Janet, I know. Jack stroked her hair, his eyes stinging again. But she's here. She's sleeping like a baby, probably dreaming about a giant lollipop or something. Janet let out a watery laugh. She probably is. Jack, thank you for being the strong one. I don't know what I would have done without you. Jack pulled back slightly, looking into her eyes. For a moment, the air between them grew thick, the silence charged with the possibility of something more. Jack's heart hammered against his ribs, not from fear this time, but from a sudden, sharp longing. "We're a team, Janet," he said, his voice dropping to a low murmur. "Always." She nodded, her hand lingering on his arm a second longer than necessary before she stepped back. "Get some sleep, Tripper. Tomorrow's another day of nonsense." Chapter 7. A New Day in Santa Monica. The next morning, the sun was brighter, the air crisper. Jack woke up to the sound of Chrissy singing badly, but enthusiastically in the shower. The sound was music to his ears. He went to the stove and started a massive breakfast. Bacon, eggs, pancakes, the works. He wanted to celebrate life. He wanted to fill the apartment with the smell of home.